I think art is inherently not democratic. It's not accessible through education and access privilege and intellectual privilege, as well as, race and gender. And yet it's the essence of life. I'm interested in ways in which, I guess we call it high quality arts or high quality arts experiences can be shared and developed with communities.
The Treaty of Waitangi, we should value it and we should upkeep it as a policy making for immigration. Strongly agree, strongly disagree.
My other is Asian, my other is Chinese, my other is New Zealand born Chinese, my other is half New Zealand born Chinese. So in recognising the specificity of my own identity, I was able to commit to telling a really particular kind of story. So it started with like a really earnest stall at the Chinese Lantern Festival during Chinese New Year. And people would kind of come up and write little things on post-it notes and stick it up. And some people found it really funny and really fun. And people classically would be like, oh, it's ang pao or it's pork buns or whatever, like the really obvious things. But every now and then someone would come forward with a really, really honest, open, dissertation of their cultural identity. And it was like, whoa, okay. And at that moment it was like, can I get your email address and sign up, and would you be interested in sharing this? And at that point I wasn't really sure how. So after that I collected, probably 100 email addresses and went, okay, I think I'm going to do like a workshop. So we had well over 100 people that signed up and participated in those workshops. And then from there it was like, okay, there's a lot here. And I felt so heavy because I felt this responsibility to all of a sudden okay, I better do something with that.
You are not your neighbours. You do not get a get out of jail free card. You are the reason for rising crimes. You are the reason we don't have houses.
Instead of redistributing those stories through the mouths of actors or through constructed identities, allowing those people to share their stories in the flesh. Because for me that is just as much an important action as the stories themselves. So we had 14 key storytellers. These made up the core cast. These were the people who committed to the full 6 weeks of the workshopping process, and each of them had a sort of a primary story that they told to the audience. And then we had on top of that a rotating group of participants who came in every night to participate in the work without having to necessarily tell their own story.
I listened to Chinese radio in the morning. I read aloud the 4 books and the 5 classics that the ancient Chinese used for their imperial examinations. Does this make me more culturally authentic?
So I decided to take an active role in the work, which was never my intention. But it felt very clear that to hold and guide these people during a 6-week process and then sort of drop them in a performative season was wrong. We've got to ignore this idea that there is an audience watching. We just need to do it the way we do it in the workshops.
I just personally think that at the beginning, if they had have bought them in smaller numbers and slowly, because when they first came in they called it the Asian invasion.
My intention was not at all to make a draft of new wave Chinese theatre artists, but that's kind of what's happened. There are people who are now going on to make work or acknowledging that it was through theatre or creativity that they could share their stories, and they want to keep doing that with others. I never ever explicitly asked for an audience member to come onto the stage, but there were times where they were wanting to get up there. The only thing that was stopping them was the chair in front of them. Sometimes people said things that were very controversial, and they just decided to drop it in the middle of the show, just to add that complexity to the narrative.
I realise I'm still drunk because I can't seem to figure out how to open the can of spaghetti with the can opener, but I don't forget to take my shoes off at the door. Because there's some things you can't forget.
I think it takes great courage to share stories, not just performatively, but just in our daily lives. And so if this kind of art can create a pathway for people to do that, I think that's really important. And I think when people enact that, it's a special kind of feeling.